The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of bad. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off-season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throbbing my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too feeble and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
First Week Podcast, recording this on Thursday afternoon about 4 o'clock, 4:16, November 6, 2025 for the Friday show. How you guys doing? It is, once again, the Friday edition of the podcast. Lots to talk about today on the show as we close out another great week here on the Earnestly Speaking podcast. I am going to react to a lot of things. I bring up my notes here. Where the hell did my notes go? There it is. Okay, here we go. I want to talk about also announcing they released their sports podcast power list this past week. I want to go through some of the names there that stood out for me. On Jon Stewart and his contract dispute with The Daily Show has come to an end. We'll figure out what's going on in that situation. George Clooney had some words about Kamala Harris and her campaign last year. And then, of course, we have a really crazy story about Tom Brady. There's something about him cloning his dog. What in the hell? Rich folks doing rich folks shit. And I don't get it. And I also want to react to Kyler Murray and his future in Arizona. This was actually the title of the show today, because I think his days in Arizona are numbered, as you see that title of this episode today. But first, I do want to react to the college football playoff rankings. So we've done, this week, right, recorded 2 NFL-related shows already for the week, and they were all done before they released their rankings, the first rankings of the season, on Tuesday night. We recorded those shows on Tuesday. Actually, Zach was Degenerate. Each was Degenerate actually was recorded on Tuesday night before the rankings came out, and of course, Still the Game Report was recorded that morning. And of course, that was all NFL focused that day, as well as the solo show. So we really have a chance to react to the rankings of the show. But we do have our first 12 teams playoffs right now, 1 through 12: Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, BYU, Texas Tech, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, and Oklahoma rounds out the top 12 of the college football's first playoff rankings. Of course, we'll get this every week from now until the selection Sunday, which will be, I believe, I think Thanksgiving weekend or the week after that. Actually, early December, because it's actually after Conference Championship week. Look, this list here, no surprises. It's been a very fluid season, very parity-driven season. I expect this list to change up. The only constant we've seen so far right now is Ohio State is right now the best team in college football. Now, are they beatable? I think they are. The question is, who can beat them? Indiana's been a great story, probably the story of the year right now. A&M doing some great things. Alabama bouncing back after that tough loss against Florida State in week 1. They've been dominant since then. Georgia doesn't look like the same Georgia team we've seen through the years, but they're still hanging tough. Of course, Ole Miss has been a good story. BYU is a good story as well too. Texas Tech, of course, being also involved in the situation. Like I said, there's a lot of things we've seen through this year that we're still making sense of the season. Like, we thought Miami was in the conversation, and Miami and Ohio State, 2 best teams in college football 3 weeks ago, and all of a sudden that's changed now. Miami's lost 2 of the last 3 games, and all of a sudden not even in the conversation. So they're out. Remember Florida State was on running hot in the first 3 weeks, and now they're gone. So it's been a crazy year. And look, this is what NIL does. This is what having a 12-team playoff does. It creates more parity. And I'm sorry, I know. And a part of me, the only thing I miss about the top 4, the 14 playoff, is that because it's not so watered down, number one, but also the top 4, because it's such an exclusive list, the hype for it, was a lot more. I feel like it was a bigger deal than the 12. Because with the 12, you kind of have an idea what 12 teams are in. Because even the teams that don't get in for the 12 spot, okay, you can make an argument they shouldn't be there because you lost multiple games of the year. Okay, you lost a spot. You had the opportunity, you didn't do it. The top 4 is a lot more controversial, which I kind of miss that part as someone who does podcasting, obviously, so it does create content for us. But I do like overall in terms of competition, the top 12 ultimately, which is really, really good for the sport, in my opinion. I like I said, all I want in a day is competition, man. I just want competition to watch, and whatnot. Now, having said that, back to the Kyler Murray thing. Kyler Murray is now on the IR for 4 weeks. He was supposed to be healthy-ish to come back in the last couple weeks, but the team made a decision to stick with Jacoby Brissett. The team has done very well with him. Now, look, they're not a good team. They're 3-6, last place in the NFC West. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to be a playoff team. But it does open the discussion about Kyler Murray's future. I'm actually looking right now in real time because Kyler Murray's contract, I don't think is as bad as you think. I think this whole situation spells a lot of what may happen with Kyler Murray's situation in his contract. So right now, I'm looking at this deal right now, currently. He has 2 more years left on his contract, where he gets $22 million next year. No, I don't think that's right. That doesn't look right. Let me see there real quick. No. That doesn't look right. There he goes. So he has 2 years of this deal. He has he's getting $43 million this year, okay, and then his deal picks up again next year at $53.2 next season, and then 1 more year of at $43.5 in 2027. Then he has a club option in 2028 for $46.3. First of all, I don't think he's going to get to the club option. I think if he does, they're going to cut him. And in this year, the little he's played this year, he hasn't looked that good. He hasn't looked that good at all. You know, and I'm a Colin friend, and how I know this is the fact that I have him on fantasy football, on my fantasy team, and I've barely started him. Even when he was healthy, I barely started him. Caleb Williams was my backup, and I've been playing Caleb Williams most of the year because his numbers are better. You know, and I don't want to keep using fantasy numbers versus what's real, but Caleb Williams has been clearly better than Kyler Murray this year. And when he was healthy, he wasn't playing all that great either. So I think his days are numbered in Arizona. Now the question is how do you get out of the contract? Like you can trade him. I think Kyler Murray he's still pretty young, so he's still a good quarterback. But the money he's getting paid for, I don't know if it's even worth taking a chance on it. But I do think that there are also a lot of teams that I think should still at least take a peek. So with that being said, I'm going to give you my top 5 teams that should consider trading for or acquiring Kyler Murray this off season. All right, number 5. The Minnesota Vikings. Now you say Vikings, wait, you got J.J. McCarthy. Yes, we do. But we don't know if that situation is actually, good. Like there's a lot of speculation coming into last week that McCarthy and that the Vikings may not be necessarily sold on the guy. And because you're paying McCarthy only a rookie deal, they may have some wiggle room to actually acquire a ready-developed quarterback. Remember, they had Sam Darnold last year. Then that Sam Darnold walked to get a bigger deal in Seattle. That's now backfired in the short term. So because we don't know the situation with Minnesota and how they feel about him, because not only that, they've only played 3. He's only had 3 starts this year? Maybe 4? So small sample. I mean, the odds are they'll stick with McCarthy, but that's a team that should at least consider it if things don't improve. Okay? Number 4. This might shock you again, but follow me here. The Indianapolis Colts. Here's why. Daniel Jones having a good year. We get all that. But there's still another 8 games to go. Okay? He can still melt down. Also, Daniel Jones is on a 1-year deal. So he's a free agent. So you have a decision to make now with the Colts as whether or not you believe Daniel Jones is worth paying $30 to $40 to even $50 million a year. How he does his next 8 weeks will determine that. Okay? And do you want to take a chance on that, knowing that he may not be as good as he is right now? Or do you want to go with a guy like Kyler Murray, who was at least developed? At least I will say Kyler Murray is still better than Daniel Jones overall. Like right now, Daniel Jones had a better year, but I think between both guys, I mean, I might still take Kyler Murray in a bigger picture. You know what I mean? Although again, the numbers are the numbers. Anthony Richardson, of course, not the future of that team at this point. Now he's a backup. I'm sure they're gonna probably either let him ride one more year or let him walk. You know, so again, these next 8 weeks could decide the future of Daniel Jones and whatnot. Because again, do you want to pay that guy that kind of money? I don't know, but something to keep a look at. All right, number 3, Cleveland Browns. Dylan Gable's not the answer, obviously. We don't know who Shedeur Sanders is, and I think at some point we're going to see Shedeur Sanders play football, right? We're going to see that situation play out. So if that both of us play out, you know, you already traded Joe Flacco, you don't have anybody. So at that point, do you just take a stab at Kyler Murray? But at the same time, you are also stuck, you know, with the contract of Deshaun Watson still. So it may not work, but again, owners find ways to get things done. I don't know. We'll see. All right, number 2, the New York Jets. I don't think Justin Fields is the future of that team. All right, and I think with all the moves they made, with trading away all the parts, they're gonna have 5 first-round picks next 2 years. Justin Fields is on a 2-year contract, and I'm not even sure the second year he has if there's a team option. I'm not even sure. Even so, I think if you're a Jets, you're at least looking at options, forward. I mean, you'll be stuck in the contract for maybe another 2 years, and then that's it. He's a well-known quantity as is. I'm not saying Kyler Murray is an elite quarterback, but he does have moments where he's shown that he's better than Justin Fields, I would say. So at the very least, take a feeler on that. Maybe have Arizona eat some money. Who knows? Number 1 for me, of course, the New Orleans Saints. I mean, I'm not going to say Spencer Rattler's been horrific, but he's not the answer. The kid's shown. 1 game, of course, he's played, I think, maybe 2. Nothing there that I'm impressed with. I mean, again, I got to look at the Saints' books and see where they stand, because historically their cap situation has been really horrible, but maybe they're better now. Who knows? I'm just looking at teams that need a quarterback, a guy who I still think Kyler Murray is a top 16 quarterback in the league. Okay? Rough season aside. Okay? But that is the teams, I believe. I will throw a caveat here, too, also, although I think it's a long shot. But if I'm the Miami Dolphins, you at least making a phone call, because I would rather have Kyler Murray than Tua Tagovailoa at this point. But the question is, can you get out Tua's contract? Because if you, again, I spoke on this podcast before in the past that to get out of Tua's contract, it's going to cost you the team about probably a $60 or $70 million cap hit. Okay, if they do it this offseason. So they're probably going to be stuck with Tua for another year unless the new GM is okay with a whole rebuild, okay? Which at that point, you see what you got in Quinn Ewers. That was the project you drafted, So, but we'll see how that plays out, man. But Kyler Murray, I think his days are numbered in Arizona. Again, how they get out of that deal, we'll see. But the options don't look good. So those are my top 5 teams I think should consider. I'm not saying they're going to happen or whatever. Just consider looking into a Kyler Murray acquisition this offseason. All right. Awful Announcing has released their sports podcast power list. Not in order, just names they threw out here. They threw out 7 names here that stood out. You got Bill Simmons, The Ringer, of course, the Bill Simmons podcast. Colin Coward, who runs The Volume. Of course, the Herd, host of The Herd as well, too. Pablo Torre, of course, he's killing it. Pablo Torre is killing it with the journalist stuff. Pablo Torre finds out under Mental Lock Media. You got Gil Arenas as Gil Arena. He's also doing stuff with Skip Bayless now. He's really started to make a stab at in the podcast world. Dave Portnoy, of course, of Barstool Sports. Not a fan of his necessarily, but you got to get Devil's due. He's still impactful. He's now doing college pregame now on FS1 now. So he's made a lot of noise. You got Kylie Kelsey, of course, the wife of Jason Kelsey, doing her own show called Not Gonna Lie. And of course, a guy who's very underrated, unless you follow Kentucky sports, but I've seen this guy's work in the past. Matt Jones with Kentucky Sports Radio, who I actually am a fan of. Actually, I've heard a couple of his material. Now he's more Kentucky focused, so I don't necessarily care for that material, because I don't care about Kentucky sports as a whole. But he's had podcasts in the past that I listened to, that made me a fan. So he's really good in the media space. There's a couple of guys I would consider also not on the list here. I think Cam Newton's killing it right now in the space now. Obviously on First Take now on ESPN, but his material now he's doing on his own has been really, really, really solid, man. He's really killing it. Of course, Shannon Sharp is doing really good big things also with his stuff, even despite losing the job at ESPN. He's still doing okay. So there's a lot of really good podcast hosts and creators out there. Wish to put my name on here, but of course I'm not big time just yet, so it is what it is. All right, Jon Stewart is staying on for The Daily Show for another year. He has officially extended his contract to host and serve as executive producer for The Daily Show through December 2026. His extension secures his role for, of course, the end of the year. Stewart will continue to host the show only once a week, primarily on Monday nights. He remains a full-time executive producer of the entire series. The talented team of Daily Show anchors and correspondents, which includes Ronnie Chang, Jordan Klepper, Michael Costa, Desi Leidick, and others, will continue to rotate the hosting duties for their Tuesday through Thursday shows. The decision was made following the success of his initial turn in February 2024, which significantly boosted the show's ratings and profile. The new deal ensures Stewart will be leading the conversation through the current administration and the upcoming 2026 U.S. midterm elections. Now, not saying there's been speculation about this at all, but there's a lot of folks in the political world, the political commentary world, that think he should run for president. I'm just throwing something out here. The extension is only 1 year. The presidential election is not for another 3 years. That still is door open. If Jon Stewart ever considered running for president in 2028, that door is still open. He can announce it toward the end of his contract and then start his campaign toward the end of his contract and then start his campaign in 2027. That is not out of realm possibility, because following the timeline that Donald Trump did it, Donald Trump announced his presidency a year and a half before he got elected this first term. So technically, if Jon Stewart wanted to keep that option open, maybe, who knows? Just saying. But what I do like is that Jon Stewart is back in our lives again. We really missed him a lot in 2016 because remember the Daily Show ended. I think he stopped doing that show. I think in 2015, right before Trump got elected. And he was a very good voice to it had, and we really missed his voice in those 8 years prior to him coming back in 2024. Yeah, it does suck that we don't get him 4 days a week. But at the same time, I do think that the cool thing about doing 1 day a week though is that now, because he's only on one day a week, the one episode a week he does is more impactful than doing 4 or 5, because now it's more word down. You do it once a week, now you're getting the impact. Okay, we got to watch him on Monday, And like I said, I don't watch him every week because crying out loud, I have so much content to watch, but he's on my feed. So when I do try to have a chance to catch him, I do. He's one of the most authentic political commentators there, especially in comedy. Yeah, yes, he's left, of course, but he's not a lefty to where he's like annoying and biased. He will call his own out. Remember when his first show when he came back last year, he was calling out Joe Biden administration, through and through. You saw that, right? So, which the administration was pissed about, but fuck him. You know what I'm saying? But it's good to see him back for another year. We'll see what happens there. And like I said, I will speculate about whether or not he will run for president. At this point, with the bar being changed as it was, I can't rule it out. All right. Speaking of president, George Clooney has said it was a mistake for Kamala Harris to step in for Joe Biden last year after he left the race. George Clooney, of course, said in a recent sit-down interview with CBS Sunday morning that he had no regrets about writing his New York Times op-ed, insisting that the former President Joe Biden bow out of the 2024 presidential election. However, in hindsight, he feels that it was a mistake to have Kamala Harris step in for Biden as the Democratic nominee. When asked if he would write his New York Times op-ed again, it gave him a chance, Clooney replied, "Yes, we had a chance. I wanted there to be, as I wrote in the op-ed, a primary. Let's battle test this quickly and get it up and running and going." I think it was a mistake with it being Kamala is she had to run against her own record. It's very hard to do it if the point of running is to say, I'm not that person. It's hard to do, and so she was given a very tough task. I think it was a mistake, quite honestly, but we are where we are. We were going to lose more House seats, they say, so I don't know. Not do it would be to say, I'm not going to tell the truth. After Biden's disastrous performance during his first presidential debate with Donald Trump, many in Hollywood called for him to step aside for a more capable candidate. Clooney became the de facto face of this movement after his July 2024 essay. In it, he wrote of Biden, quote, "We are not going to win in November with this president. On top of that, we won't win the House, and we're going to lose the Senate." This isn't only my opinion. It is the opinion of every senator and Congress member and governor that I've spoken with in private. Every single one, irrespective of what he or she is saying publicly. After facing backlash for the piece, Clooney told CNN's Jake Tapper that he felt it was his civic duty to call attention to what he believed was an imperative issue. Quote, "That's the deal. You have to take your stand if you believe in it," he said. Take a stand for it, and then deal with the consequences. That's the rules. So when people criticize me, they criticize me for my stance against the war 20 years ago. People picketed my movies, and they put me on a deck of cards. I have to take that. That's fair. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with criticism for where I stand. I defend their right to criticize me as much as I defend my right to criticize them. Here's the thing. I agree with George Clooney. I would rather have seen a primary. However, what I've always defended on this situation last year was that because of the timing issue, because of the rules about the war chest, that the money that Joe Biden raised on his campaign for 2024 was only transferable to Kamala Harris, not anybody else. So essentially, it was the more prudent decision to go with Kamala. Now, again, I'm someone that wants to over primary. I want the people in the party to have the voice to make the decision, not the people running the party, not the super PACs, all this bullshit that Democrats always pull every so goddamn fucking every 4 years. Okay, but I understood why Kamala was the reason, and of course, you're also doing this on the fly with 107 days to go, so it made sense. Okay, and here's the thing too. Also, had Kamala Harris stayed on message from the first couple of weeks before they changed message again toward the end of the campaign, she might have actually won. But, you know, again, Democrats shoot themselves in the foot every time also. And people say, well, you always pick on Democrats all the time. I don't give a fuck. Here's the deal. If you're a Democrat, okay, whatever, and you're anti-Trump, and Donald Trump is supposed to be this looming figure that scares you, of course, okay? You're telling me this. I'm not saying it. You're saying it. All right? Sorry, my microphone. All right? The Democrats are your guardrails. They are your guardrails. So you need to treat the threat, as you say, serious. So having 80-year-old Joe Biden there as your last line defense, not good. Okay? That's why I was critical last year of it. Okay? So, but Clooney's correct here. But honestly, had they made the change earlier than July, maybe primary would have been more, but it would have been when it worked out. But honestly, here's the thing too. Also, he did the primary. Honestly, I still think they would have raised enough money in time. I really believe so, because hello, Kamala Harris, when she entered the race, not including the money they already had in the war chest, she was clearing donations like crazy. So, but you know, like I said, it is what it is. We're here right now, as George Clooney said, and that's just that. All right, one last thing to get out of here. A story that, to me, I'll be honest with you, it's a little disturbing to me, in my opinion. But Tom Brady, soon-to-be Hall of Fame quarterback, recently revealed that his current dog, Junie, is a clone of his former beloved pet, a pit bull mix named Lua, who passed away in December 2023. Lua, a pit bull mix, was adopted by Brady and his ex-wife, Giselle Bundchen, in 2014. She passed away in late 2023. The cloning was performed by Colossal Biosciences, a Dallas-based biotech company that Brady is an investor in. Brady stated that the company used a non-invasive cloning technology through a simple blood draw taken from Lua before she died. The announcement about Junie being a clone coincided with Colossal Biosciences' announcement that it was acquiring Viagen Pets and Equine, a well-known animal cloning firm that has also cloned pets for other celebrities like Barbra Streisand and Paris Hilton. Brady expressed that the company gave my family a second chance with a clone of our future dog, and is excited about the potential for the merged companies to help both families losing pets and efforts to save endangered species. This decision has sparked debate regarding the ethics of pet cloning, with critics raising concerns about the welfare of the animals involved in the process. I hate this shit, bro. This is weird shit. I know in the world of AI and now cloning and all this stuff. We're hitting some really weird, uncharted waters when it comes to some of these things we're going to be doing very soon. I don't like it because here's why. Don't want to look at this as rich people do rich people things. We got money to fucking blow. What are you going to do? I get it. And here's the thing with Brady. I'm sure there was well intent with this. I'm not going to sit and say Brady was malicious and trying to do something that's just out of whack. But I'm going to keep it 100 here, guys. This is weird as fuck, bro. This is weird as fuck. I'm sorry. And personally, as someone who is a pet owner, now I lost my dog a couple years ago, but I was a dog owner for a long time. And I had 2 dogs for a long time. And one passed away, one I gave away because when I had kids and she's got more aggressive with the kids, I had to make a decision to give her to another family. But I also am someone that, as a pet owner, am a firm believer in adopting. I already had massive problems with people and owners breeding dogs as is. Now we're going from breeding to cloning now, bro. Not a fan, bro. Not a fan. And I get it. But here's the thing. You're not getting the same dog anyway. Even if you clone it, it's still not the same personality. It's all is just a clone. To me, it's just fucking weird, bro. It's just really weird, and I'm not a fan of it. And nothing I can do to stop it. With AI, with cloning, we're going to some really weird waters here. All I gotta say, thank God I'm older. I want to deal with this shit. If I had to deal with this stuff, if I was my kid's age and I had to deal with all this AI stuff and cloning and all this weird things that we don't know what's going on, I'd be so unprepared for this stuff. It's weird. I think it's weird. I'd rather you adopt. Save a dog that needs a saving. This is my opinion, man. You do what you want to do, but it's just fucking weird, bro. It really is. And we'll end the show right there. And again, dated November 7th, actually, 2025. I am on X at EJ Christian 7. Check out all the content on the feed we had this week. We had a great week of shows. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. And next week, another list of shows. So until the next one, we will talk to you guys soon. God bless y'all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And